The talk I want to give today is about conflict, specifically conflict as a source of unlimited free energy. So before I start, I want to be very clear that this is not a talk encouraging you to go out and get into conflict and start arguments with people. There is actually plenty of conflict already in the world. And we are sort of naturally inspired to be in conflict at many moments. So you don't have to go hunting for it. I'll just put that out there at first. But what this video is really about is the sense that we everywhere we're looking for energy, right? In our public collective life, we have an energy crisis, and which manifests also as a money crisis and a debt crisis. And in our personal lives, oh my goodness, everyone I know is stressed out. Everyone I know is riding these weird cycles of exhaustion and depletion and looking for energy. We're looking for money, which is just a physical manifestation of energy. So in one way, we're really hungry for energy. We feel the hunger for that sense of enlivenment in our life. In this other way, there's all this conflict that's happening in society. You read the news, and there are these spontaneous eruptions of violence. There are countries at war. There are countries in financial revolution, in social revolution. And generally, we don't put these two together. We don't think that our hunger for energy can have something to do with the amount of conflict that there is. But there is an incredible amount of energy in conflict. Most of us know this intuitively, which is why we tend to avoid conflict. I was having a conflict with a housemate, and we were sort of tiptoeing around each other and not wanting to talk about it, and the tension elevated and elevated and elevated until you could cut it with a knife. And we do this all the time. We find ways of avoiding directly engaging with conflict because the energy contained in conflict is scary to us, and for good reason. It's explosive energy. I had this insight the other week about nuclear energy, that the splitting of the atom, which created a tremendous amount of physical force, and which we used destructively, but that essentially what that physical process is about, it's about ripping apart the fabric of reality. On a very small level, you go in and you tear apart the fabric of reality, and doing so releases this tremendous amount of energy because reality is kept together by a tremendous amount of energy. And it's the same thing with conflict. We're always keeping it together. We're keeping our relationships together. We're managing things. We're trying to keep things under control. And that takes a massive amount of energy. That's why many of us are exhausted, because as the world goes through all these changes, we're investing all this energy in trying to keep it together and trying to keep things under control. So, if in a carefully facilitated way, where we're exerting consciousness and care, we can allow things to come apart. We can allow things actually to rip apart a bit. There's a tremendous amount of energy that's released that we can use constructively. Okay, I had to take a break to get a piece of pie. I was getting too excited. All right, so how can we use this information? Well, in a couple ways. First, in our personal life. When we catch ourselves getting into a conflict with someone, we can notice our habitual tendency, which is to move away from that conflict, or to just be very unconscious in the conflict. Get very attached to the ideas of, oh, they're wrong, they're idiots, which is in some way just a distraction from the energy that's latent in the conflict. We get so caught up in the details and wanting to prove who's right and who's wrong, that we expend energy instead of harnessing it. You can think about this in the collective arena as well. Think of our politicians. right? They gather together in a big room and discuss an issue like, abortion or gay marriage or taxes or, whatever the left and the right like to bump heads about. And they just basically go, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And they expend a lot of energy. And at the end of the day, everyone is sort of exhausted and irritable and troubled. So an alternative to that model is that people gather and they're aware of the feeling behind the conflict. So whatever it is we're arguing about, there's energy behind the argument. If I attend to that energy instead of the details of the conflict, remarkable things can happen. So the senators get together and they're arguing, but instead of arguing to prove each other wrong, they're arguing to harness the energy of the conflict. This is a very difficult thing to imagine. It might be easier to imagine on an individual level. So you're standing there with the person that you're having a conflict with. Perhaps I'm standing there with my roommate who I'm having a conflict with. And I'm just breathing, and instead of getting attached to wanting to be right, I'm just feeling the tremendous energy in this conflict, the energy of things coming apart a little. And both me and my roommate agree, in an ideal world, both parties agree to stand there and feel that and take in the energy of that. There's tremendous potential in that. And if you extend that to a room full of senators or a room full of congressmen who at this point in evolution don't have the consciousness or the awareness to think of things that way, that we can come together not to prove each other wrong, but to raise energy collectively. But if we can get people to that level of evolution, where they're aware of energy on that level, we can do amazing things. Not only for our relationships and our personal lives, but there have been tremendous amounts even of scientific studies on the effects of thoughts and energy on matter, on particles, on molecules. We have these tremendous reservoirs of energy within us and between us in the connections. It's the same thing inside and outside. The connections between cells and the synapses, the connections between people and the spaces between. There's a tremendous amount of energy that we can use for constructive, good purposes. And I've already gone on a long time, but it's something for you to think about and just maybe try on the next time you sense some feelings of conflict approaching. Just welcoming the energy that's coming in. And we'll be talking more about this and how we can actually practice this and hopefully change the way we function as a society, because we are dysfunctional. We're in a debt crisis. We're lacking energy. The oil that we've used for years is running dry. So where are we going to get our new energy from in our personal and collective lives? One answer is from each other and from coming together in new and remarkable ways. So thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you again. Bye-bye.